Okay, let's get started. Hello, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Brian, on your end?
Yep. Yes.
All right. I would like to emphasize again to say this thing we are doing, this part of the course we are doing, this is the tool we are going to use to study computational physics. Is this clear?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a tool we're going to use to study computational physics. This Python is the Python you're going to use to do your labs. Your labs, your CA for your labs, your CA in this course is 50%. The exam is 50%. Okay? The exam is 50%. Your CA is 50%. That 50% CA, there is 10% test. There is 10% test 1, 10% test 2. So test 1 and test 2 combined, they are 20%. The remainder of the course, then you have an assignment. Assignment 5%. So test 1, 10%, test 2, 10%, assignment 5%. That is 25%. The remaining 25% is split labs. 15% labs, 10% lab tests. So you're going to have a lab. If you do labs, those labs will be 15%. Then you're going to do a lab test. That lab test is going to be 10%. For you to do your labs, you have to use Python. Okay? So basically, your labs component is half of your CA. 25% of your CA is the lab component. That's why we are doing this, so that very soon you can start doing your labs, working towards that 25%. If out of that 25% you can get 23% or 22%, that's good. Okay, so let's push bit by bit. Okay, now what we are going to look at something called basic data types. Of course, these are some of the things I've already looked at, which you use in Python 3. The first one is an integer. Integers are just numbers without decimal points. That's what we mean by integers. You have to do with integers. We have seen some of these numbers like 100 or 7. The other data type you're going to meet in Python quite often is a float. Numbers with decimal points. The other thing we've looked at so far, which you're going to look at, data type you're going to look at, are strings. Texts, which is enclosed, or words, letters enclosed in quotation marks. The other one, of course, you have seen these, booleans. These are true or false values. Okay? These are not the only ones. These are not the only data types which are found in Python. But for starters, we'll work with these. Then after that, we're going to start meeting more complex data structures which we're going to use. Any questions on this? What an integer is? What is a float? What is a string? What is a boolean? Questions? Are we clear? Are we clear on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The next thing you want to do when you have got a variable is you want to find out what kind of data is contained in that variable. Okay? For you to find out what kind of data is contained in the variable, you use this function, the type function. The type function gives you back the kind of data which is contained in the variable. Yesterday we created some variables. For example, if you still remember, PHY. If you get this PHY, you give it to the type function. Then you run this. This is what we get. The type function, when we give it the variable PHY, it tells us, it gives us back this result. It's telling us that PHY is a float. A float, as we are from seeing here, these are numbers with decimal places. PHY is a number with a decimal place. That's how you find out what kind of data a variable has, by giving the name of the variable as inputs to the type function. The other variable we created is first name. If we give first name to the type function, what do we get? The type function tells us that first name is a string. str is short for string. This str, that is a short way of writing strings. Next, we had the variable age. We give this variable age to the function type, then we run it. The type function tells us that age is an int, an integer, a number without a decimal part. Then we created a variable answer. If we give this variable answer, we give it to the type, the function type, then we run it. The type function tells us that answer is a variable of type bool, which is this one, boolean, abbreviated bool. This is how we find out what kind of information is in a variable. We use this function type. Are we clear?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes. Yes.
Good. The next bit is a task or a process called string concatenation. This is just simply a technical way or a sophisticated way of saying string addition. We can add strings. We can do string addition using the plus sign. For example, here we have the string hello this side. We want to add the string hello to the string word. We can add the string hello, this one in red, plus the string word. When we add strings like this, then we print the result of the addition. This is what we get. Have you seen that?
No.
Hello world. That's what we get. We get this hello world. If you add a small space to hello, the string hello, at the end of the hello, you add a small space, that one there. Then you combine, you do the addition with word. Then here, hello, then plus word. When you do that addition, that's what you get. Hello world. So there is a bit of a space in between there. The same space can be added in front of the word word. So you can have hello plus word like this. You get hello world like this. The best way to add strings really is not the way we have shown here or there. No. The best way to add strings is also to be adding spaces. You leave the hello the way it is, hello, then you put a plus, then you add a space. You can add one space like this. This is a string, a space, then plus another plus, then word. This is the best way to add strings. Then you get hello world like this. It is clear. You can add strings the same way you can add numbers. Using the plus. Now, these strings we have been adding, hello and word, are not stored in variables yet, but you can add them. However, you're not restricted to only adding strings which are not in variables. You can have strings which are in variables, then you add them. For example, we have got this string here, this variable, first name. Remember, first name was Mike, then surname, you print surname, you get price. So this variable, first name, has a string as value, Mike, then surname, this variable surname, has got a value, price. We can add this first name variable, whatever is in first name, which is Mike, as you can see, Mike, then what type? It's a string, the name of variable, then plus. We add a space to separate the names, then plus. Surname. The value in surname, as you can see, it is price. It's a string. You can do this, then we run it. We end up with Mike price. Is this clear?
No.
You can add the values which are contained in variables as long as those variables, the values contained on those variables are strings. We can even go further. The outcome of adding first name, which has got a value Mike, as you can see here, and plus space plus surname. So this is Mike price. The result of this addition here is Mike price. We can store the result of this addition in a variable full name. We do that, nothing appears to have happened, but something has happened. Then we print out full name. You see? The result of the addition, first name plus space surname, has been stored in full name. Then we print out full name and we get Mike price. This Mike price okay. This Mike price we can add it with my name is. This string, my name is, can be added with my price, with full name, the variable full name. So here, the string, my name is, plus the variable full name, plus a string which adds a full stop at the end. When we do that, this is what we get. We get my name is my price. So string addition, ability to add strings, allows us to build very complex things, like sentences like this from variables. Is this clear?
Yes.
The most important thing here to note is we can add strings. Text we can add, we can do text addition using the plus sign. Any questions?
I'm okay.
Brian?
No questions.
Okay. Then we move on to something called data conversion, data type conversion. It's possible, and sometimes it's necessary for you to change the type of data in a variable, stored in a variable. It's necessary sometimes, and sometimes it's possible, using some tricks, to change the type of data which is stored in a variable. This process of changing the type of data type, the data type of a value, is what's known as casting. Okay? Now, if you want to cast, for example, you want to cast a number, it depends on what you want to cast it. If you want to cast a number, you want to change a number into a string, you have to add quotation marks on that number. Okay? For example, let's look at this example we have here. Print the addition of numbers 1 and 2. So here we would number 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 we know is 3, right? Yes. 1 plus 2 is 3. That is a result of 1 plus 2. However, if you decide to put quotation marks on 1, then you leave the 2 alone. You can see the 1 changes color. It becomes red because you have put quotation marks on it. Have you seen that?
Yes.
The reason why it becomes red is because it is no longer a number. It is a string now. When you put quotation marks on something, that something becomes a string. Okay? Yes, that something becomes a string. Now we try to add the string 1 with a number 2. When you try to do this addition, this is what you get. Python brings out a red pen, say there's something wrong here. And what does it say? It says type error. Must be string, not integer. Basically, the reason why there's a problem here is because you are not allowed to add a string to an integer. If you're going to do addition which involves strings, you need to add a string with a string. You're not allowed to add a string and a number. Is that clear?
Yes.
So this gives you an error. If you try to add a string to a number without doing anything about this, you get errors which are not forgiven. The same thing applies here. Add the number 1 and the string 2. This gives errors again. See, this kind of operation is not supported. Same. Addition, you're not allowed to add a number and a string. However, if we enclose both numbers in quotation marks, the numbers become strings. As you can see, they turn into color red. When we do this, that is what we get. The answer of adding the string 1 plus the string 2 is not 3, but it's 12. Yes. These numbers are being treated like words. It's like what we did here. They are no longer numbers. It's like what we did, where is that? Here.
Yeah, they explain hello and word.
Yes. They are now being treated as text. So the same way we do this addition here, that's how the addition is being done with those numbers. Those previously numbers. So they're being treated not as numbers, but as text. So you end up having 1 and 2. If we want to successfully carry out these additions, this one here, this kind of additions here, these ones, if you want to carry out a successful addition of these things, we need to change the number, this number 2, we need to change it into a string. Okay? And how do you change a number into a string? You use this guy here, the string function. That's what you use. If you want to change a number into a string, you use this guy, a string function. So you have got print.
Kindly repeat on that one.
I'm saying, if you want to change a number into a string, you can also use, apart from adding quotation marks, here we added quotation marks, right?
Yes.
We added quotation marks like that. Apart from this way of doing this calculation, adding quotation marks, you can use this function, str, string function. The string function is going to change the number you give it. It's going to slap some quotation marks on it so that this calculation can be done successfully. Here. So that you end up with that. The same with here. This number here already has quotation marks, that is the string 2. Then you've got the number 1 here. So this number 1, when you give it to the function string, it's going to create a string out of this. When you run it, you end up with 12. Here we've got 2 numbers. We've got the number 1, we've got the number 2. When we give these numbers 1 and 2 to the string functions, respectively, these string functions will change this number. This one is going to put some quotation marks on it. On this 2, you put some quotation marks, and the result is going to be 12. Is it clear what's happening?
Yes.
This is a process called data type conversion. This data type conversion. Python allows you to do this depending on what you want. So, we have seen how to change numbers into strings using this string function. And that has got advantages. For example, remember with the variable age, right?
Yes.
If we print age, in my case, that's my age, 34. If we get the type of age, what kind of data is age? Type age. You see that age is an integer. So what do I want to do? What I want to do here, I want to print out this. My name is plus full name. We know what full name is. Full name is a variable we created up here. Full name, full name, full name, full name. Here it is. Full name, Mike Price. So we know what is in full name. Okay? Full name here. Full name then. Then full stop. I want to say 34 years old. Now I'll try to do this and see if it's going to work. So I have my name is here. My name is a string, then plus this guy, full name. Full name is a string with a value Mike Price. So I'll say my name is Mike Price. Then at the end I add this dot. Then I start a new sentence. I want to add this. That is age. Age, as you can see, has a value of 34, and the type of variable is int. Then I continue adding strings. So basically what I want to do here is I want to add strings and a number. Okay? I want to add strings and a number. We have tried to do this similar thing here. We have tried to add up here a string and a number, and it didn't go very well because there was a problem. Okay, so we try to do that here. We try to do something similar here. When we try to do that something similar here, Python tells us there is a problem. It underlines the whole thing here. So this whole thing has got a problem. And where is the problem? The problem, it tells us, must be string, not int. Basically, it is telling us to say we can only add strings to strings. We have a bunch of strings. This is a string. String plus string plus string plus string. Then there's a problem here. This is not a string. This is an integer. Then plus string. So we have to change this age into a string temporarily, and that's what we do next here. So we use the string function. So we give the age variable to the string function so that a copy of this thing gets changed. So we end up having, when you run this now it works. Now it says my name is Mike Price, I am 34 years old. Is this clear how we can use these things?
Yes, it is.
When you are creating sentences, those sentences might have numbers in them. However, you can't combine straightforwardly, you can't combine strings and numbers. It will be necessary for you to change your numbers into strings. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Changing numbers into strings is not the only kind of conversion you can do. Okay? For example, you can change a string into a number, or you can change a string into a float. For example, I create a string here, this one here. As you can see, it's 2020 and it is in quotation marks, right? So this is a string. This is a string. 2020 is in quotation marks. I store it in here. Then I display here. You can see 2020 in quotation marks. So this is a string. Okay? Then I try to get the data type of year. What kind of variable is year? So I get this variable year. I give it to the type function. When I run it, the type function tells me this is a string. Fine. So what if I want a number out of year? For me to change year, which is a string, temporarily into a number, like an integer, I have to use this guy, the int function. When I give year to the int function, then I run this, you see the result. The result is just a number, 2021. It does not have any quotation marks. You've seen the quotation marks here? Oh yeah? Those quotation marks show you that year is a string. But when you get year, you give it to int, the quotation marks disappear. It becomes a number. This whole thing here, this int year, if I give this int year, I get the whole int year there, I give it to type. The int year, I give it to the type function. Then I run it. It tells me the result of int year is an integer. Is that clear?
Yes.
That shows us that we had a string 2021. We have managed to change the string 2021 into a number 2021. If you want to change strings into numbers, especially numbers without decimal points, you use this guy, this function int. Is that clear?
Yes.
The next bit is, if you check after all this thing we've done here, you check again the data type of year. If you check the data type of year, it tells you year has not changed actually. It is still a string. If you display year, year actually still contains quotation marks. So it looks like our variable year has not changed. So what actually happened when we gave year to this guy, to int? What happened? So normally in Python, what happens is, like in this case, this function int, when you give it a variable, it's going to look at the variable, say, oh, okay, this variable looks like it's got something. Then it's going to copy the value in the variable. Is that clear? It copies the value. It copies, it makes it like photocopying. It copies the value, then it modifies the copy. It is the copy which is modified. This is a result of modifying a copy. The actual value in the variable remains unchanged. It's like you have something, you go and photocopy it, you have got a picture, okay? You have got a picture because you're trying to, I don't know, you're trying to improve the picture or something like that. First you go and photocopy the picture. Then after you photocopy the picture, you start modifying the photocopy. Then you come and show us the photocopy. Is what I'm talking about clear? These functions like int, these functions int, string, they make a copy of the data they have been given. They make a copy of the variable, then modify the copy in such a way that the copy, the original data they were given, does not change. Are we clear? Now, we know if we want to permanently change the year so that the year changes permanently from a string to an integer, we know this bit does it. We know this part, int year, makes a copy of the value stored in year, which is a string, takes that copy, it changes it into an integer. As you can see, the thing stored in year here, from here, year. You can see year contains 2021 in quotation marks, and that is a string. So if we give year to int, okay, the int function is going to make a copy of the string 2021. It will change that copy into a number, an integer. Once it changes the copy into a number, then this bit, the copy is stored back into year. Okay? The copy is stored back into year. We store the copy back into year. If we run this like that, what we end up with, now you see what we have this side. What we have this side is year. It is a number 2021 and the type is integer. Is that clear?
Yes.
The copy we made, we have stored it back into year. It works because year is a variable. The information you can store in year can change depending on what you want. If we display year here, year is now 2021. It's just a number. Then you ask for the data type. The data type is now int. Is this clear?
It is.
Okay. The last thing you can do with variables, not last per se, but for now, since we're just getting started, there are many things you can do with variables and strings. You can multiply, you can repeat a string. You can repeat a string by doing multiplication. But you can only multiply a string using an integer. You can only multiply a string using an integer. For example here, I create a variable disease, and of course the disease of the day is COVID-19. I give it a value COVID-19. So I run this. Okay, then I print disease. Then it tells me COVID-19. I can multiply this string, this COVID-19. I can do this. Not print, but I display. Yes, COVID-19 there. I can multiply this COVID-19 times a number, an integer. I can multiply it by 3. If I multiply COVID-19 by 3, this is what I get. I get COVID-19, COVID-19, COVID-19 3 times. What I'm trying to say here is, if a variable contains a string, apart from doing string addition, apart from the addition we have done, okay, you can multiply a variable which contains a string. You can multiply it with a number, an integer. If you try to multiply this disease, you try to multiply it by 3 times, by 3.5, it's not going to work. See, it tells you can't multiply sequence by non-integer. A sequence is basically a string, something like a string. You can't multiply something which looks like a string with a number which is not an integer of type float. Are we clear?
Yes.
Any questions?
No, it's not a question, but maybe from what I've got, you can only multiply a string by an integer.
Yes.
And what Python does is that it will replicate the variable which I've assigned to a particular term.
It's not the variable it replicates, it's the value.
Yet the value of the variable.
Yes, it will do a replication by the
Like-
number of times you have multiplied it.
Yes.
Yes.
So like you have done there,
Mhm.
since we have assigned the variable disease with COVID-19,
Mhm.
and then multiplied it by 3, it has just repeated that COVID-19 3 times.
Yes.
So now, if when writing that disease and then disease times 3, what about if we put spaces there? Is it going to also give us a result which will be COVID-19 with some spaces in between?
Spaces where?
When we are multiplying the,
Where do you put the space?
and I mean down on the disease.
Here.
113 on 113. On 113, yes, if we put some spaces there.
Where do you put the space?
Just after disease, you put some space.
There is already a space there.
Yes, I'm saying what about you put more space there? Is the answer that we're going to get there going to have more larger spaces?
I have put more space, then I run it.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Okay.
The reason is very simple. It's because, remember, spaces are white spaces. These spaces are white spaces. When you're doing a multiplication, addition, at the beginning, remember when you're talking about white spaces? White spaces are ignored.
Yes.
Remember when we up here, when we're doing Python as a calculator? Remember?
Yes.
White spaces are ignored. So whether you add more spaces or not, it doesn't make a difference. The only way it can make a difference, as I'm going to show, is if you add the spaces in the string itself, in the value COVID-19.
Okay.
Yeah, just a bit here. Here we had this between the plus 7 and then we added more spaces. The value didn't change, it still remains 16. You add more spaces, it still remains 16. So when you're doing a calculation, then you add more spaces between the numbers or whatever it is you're multiplying. It doesn't change anything. The only way you can achieve what you want to achieve, I know what you want to achieve. The only way you can achieve that is when you add the space in the value COVID-19, as I'm going to show. Just a minute. Here, when you add the space there, have you seen that?
Okay.
COVID,
Okay.
then you put a space there. When you put a space there, then you run it. Then, of course, there is disease. There's a small space there. Now, here, when you multiply, this, then you get that. You get a space there.
Okay.
You get a space there. You get a space there. This is the only way you get spaces. These spaces.
Kindly scroll to 116.
116. There it is.
Start from 115. 115. Let's see what's on 115. No. Okay, 116. Yes. So when you have when you are creating a variable, in that case we have disease. So once we have assigned that value to that variable, we can achieve that spacing when we are actually assigning it, when typing it there.
Yeah, when you're doing the assignment.
Okay.
That's the only way.
Okay.
Any other question?
No.
Rachel?
I'm good.
You're good. Okay, that's nice. All right. So, this chapter has come to the end. I'm going to send you the thing we're going to look at tomorrow. I'm going to send you a notebook. I think when we start tomorrow, we'll probably finish it on Monday. I don't want to start something new today.
Okay.
I just wanted us to finish as this. So it looks like we're taking 2 days to finish things. So I'll send you a notebook, another one. You can open it, you can look at it, that's fine. But you can also do something. There's something you can do even here. If you want to practice, when you go to your Colab, if you want to practice, you come on File here. Okay?
Yes.
Come on File, then click here.
New notebook?
Yeah, new notebook. When you click on new notebook, Colab is going to open a new notebook for you to use.
Okay.
Yeah, just a minute. You'll be given a new notebook to use for you to practice. At the same time, the things you're practicing will be stored in your Google Drive, like here. Okay? So you can start practicing here. You can say, okay, print. Can you see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Print 33, then you run it, you see. You can have your own practice and see what's happening. You can quickly start practicing your Python skills. Just a minute for it to connect. Yeah, so it's connected. There it is, print 33. You can give it a title there. You can write a title there. My practice. You say chapter 1 practice. You can do that. Chapter 1 practice. Then there it is. Chapter 1, your practice. You're trying to practice the things you learned in chapter 1. Then if you want to add a new line, a new code line, you press there. Code line. Then you're given another line there. You want to say what? Message. You want to create a variable message. You want to store a value hello in that message. Then you run it. Then you add another line. You press there, add another line. You can say print message. Print message. So just try out things. Okay? Yeah, just try and see what works, what doesn't work, based on what you have learned in the previous lesson. Okay? See what works, practice, see what works, see what doesn't work. If you want to print some numbers, you add another line. There is this thing here for you to add a line. You want to print, say you want to do some addition. Let's say, okay, fine, 33 plus what? Plus 24. You want to see what 33 plus 24 looks like. It gives you 57. So there is limitless opportunity for you to practice so that you can remember this thing is not just you saying, oh, I understand, oh, I see, okay, yes. This is a language. Okay? Since it's a language, the more you practice the language, the more you become better at the language. The more it becomes easier for you to express your ideas. Okay? So try to practice. Open a new notebook here. Open a new notebook. On File, the new notebook. Then try to practice, explore, file new notebook, explore. Okay? Try to see what one, can you create a variable this? Maybe you can use your names on maybe it's first name, or use your names and see, or you can use your son's name, or you can use your daughter's name. You can create a variable husband, wife, or kid, son. You understand? Yeah, there are all sorts of things you can create. You can say variable son, then you put a value in son there, like that's mine. Then I click run. Then you say print. You can say print, say that. Then what do I get? I get that. So there's limitless opportunity for you to practice. Okay, just keep on adding code lines. Then you keep on practicing, then you see what happens. If I want to multiply son times, maybe I want to have 5 sons times 5. Then I have that. That's what you get. Okay? And mind you,
Yes.
there is nothing which is going to go wrong. If something goes wrong, let's say I'm saying son times half.
It will refuse.
You want to be easy. You want to be sure that it's going to refuse.
It will refuse.
You understand?
Yes.
So, as you are practicing, as you are finding out what works, what doesn't work, you are learning. Is that clear? You know what works. You start finding out, oh, so this is what works in Python. Okay? This is what doesn't work. This works, this doesn't work. If I do this, this works. If I do this, this doesn't work. Okay?
Yes.
In many things in life, when something doesn't works, yeah, people are very happy you find something is working on. But when it comes to computer programming, when things are always working, you don't learn a lot. You learn a lot when things don't work, so that you try to fix them. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So, with what you have learned there, you can try to do your own examples on a practice notebook there. Google is giving you computer power. Then you just practice, so that you start becoming familiar with things. You can be referring to what you have done this side, then you do this side, and you keep on practicing. The more you practice, the better you become. If you don't practice, you won't become any better. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to send you the material you're going to look at starting tomorrow. And I've also sent you a PDF. Have you seen?
Yes.
Yeah. So print that thing out. Then study. You have to study. You have to read the language. You have to read the notes of the language so that you start understanding things. Because this is the same language you're going to use to actually solve the physics, the mathematics you need to do. So if you can't speak the language, then you're just in trouble. And that's why I decided, so that you see, when you do this thing every day, eventually maybe later, but when you do it every day, you quickly learn. It's like you're speaking a language every day. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so today we end here. I'll send you the notebooks to your emails for chapter 2, which talks about lists, and that's what we're going to look at tomorrow.
Okay.
Unless you've got any questions.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we stop here.
Okay. Thanks.
Cheers.